I have concerns. I definitely have concerns. As always, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and be sure and leave a comment, and everything will be available in the description of this video that you could possibly need, including links to all of my gear on my website so you can see all the stuff that I use. And be sure and check out my podcast, which is called Photobomb. It comes out every single week with my friend Gary Hughes. It's fantastic. You'll love it. And join me on Facebook at Pro Photo Talk with Boo-Ray Perry. All right, here we go. You know what we're talking about today, right? The X-H2s was announced yesterday, and so I'm making this video very quick, and you're going to hear the dog outside the door, and you're going to hear the guy mowing the grass outside this window, and that's just the breaks because I got to get this video out right now. I have concerns about the new Fuji X-H2 body and its ergonomics. We're not going to talk about all the other stuff. Okay, we're not going to talk about. We're talk about the new processor. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how great this camera is for video. We're not going to talk about all that stuff because that's all going to be covered by people who are much better at covering that stuff than I am. We're going to talk about me personally and what's important to me and what I'm concerned about. So here it is. First of all, there's lots of good. To think about this X-H2s is fantastic if you're a video shooter. It's not for me. I'm going to wait for the X-H2, which is going to come out in September. They're going to announce it then. And I'm waiting for that camera and its 40 megapixel sensor. Very excited about that sensor. Very excited about the autofocus. Oh, man, they say the autofocus is fantastic. Very excited about that. However, I am a little concerned about the changes in the body. Now, to be fair, the original X-H1 was different than, say, the body that you get on, the X-T4, the X-T3, etc. So I get that. But looking at it now, since I've never owned an X-H1, there's a couple of things that I'm wondering if there aren't some hardcore Fuji shooters that are really going to kind of balk at this. So let's break down the changes in the ergonomics that they're doing to the camera that I think people might have a problem with. And then we'll decide, are we going to have a problem with this? Or are we just going to be like, no, this is fine. All right. First of all, the dials are gone. Well, the X-H1 didn't have a bunch of dials either. So we get that. One of the things that we love about Fuji cameras is that they have a dedicated dial right here for your ISO, a dedicated dial right here for your shutter speed, and a dedicated dial right here for your exposure compensation. And you can lock these dials down once you set them so you can't move them by accident. This is very cool and very handy, and we like it. These dials are all now gone, and it's going to be replaced by one big dial just like all the other cameras on the market. And that dial will have custom settings, 6 custom settings in fact, which is very good. But also if you want to go to aperture priority, you just put it in aperture priority. Here's the thing about the dials. They're great. I love them. They're cool. But when you think about them, they're really not that practical. Okay? I don't want to be the guy that upsets all the Fuji fans because I'm a Fuji fan too. But they're not really that practical, and here's why. First of all, they are one-stop increment dials. So if you want to change your shutter speed to say 200, you can't do it with the dial. It's either 125 or it's 250. You're going to have to go to here to get the increment. So if you're going to have to go to here to get the third stop increments, why don't you just stay here all the time? Which is what I do. I never use the dials for setting those two things. I did the first time I ever picked up the camera because I had a problem and I panicked. But since then, now that my camera is set up the way I want it to be, I never use the dials. All I do with these dials is either turn them to auto or turn them to C and T. And by the way, I have a whole video about the CT controversy and why do they have different names. That's on the channel. I'll put a link up here. So the truth is, I'll miss them for their ergonomics the way I miss a stick shift in a car. But the truth is I don't need the stick shift in my car, and I don't need these dials. So I'm okay with these dials going away. However, they are making another big change that I'm not real happy about. And that is that the front command dial and the back command dial are no longer going to be clickable. So I don't know how you have your camera set up, but if you have your camera set up so that your front dial does one thing and then when you click it, it does another thing, that's not going to happen anymore. It's going to do one thing only. And the same with the back dial. So the minute I heard about this, I took my camera out and I changed my settings around a little bit to see, okay, how do I have my camera set up? And when I'm shooting in manual mode, which is the majority of what I do when I'm on location shooting events and weddings and stuff, when I'm in manual mode, my front dial is my shutter speed, my back dial is my ISO, but if I click my back dial, it becomes my focus area selection. So I am constantly switching my focus area selection when I am shooting on location, because if I'm shooting somebody if I'm shooting, moving around and panning a lot and doing lots of different shots, then I will be in manual focus selection. I'll have my focus area set to a box or one dot, and I'll be using the joystick on the back of my camera to move my focus area around. But then if I go to do table shots or shoot shots of groups or families or anything like that, I immediately will click this in, switch to full screen focus area selection, and then go down here and click my D-pad and change it to, change it to eye focus, to auto eye. So I'll go click, bam, and now I'm on auto eye, and I can do all these group pictures and table shots and everything. And then when I go back to the party stuff, I go click, make it a small dot, take it off auto, and we're back to the races. So I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. However, if you push the joystick in, it does the same thing. So instead of being able to click this and turn it, I will now have to click the joystick and then turn this. Minor? Yeah, I guess. Quibbling. Now instead of one button to do that maneuver, I've got to go to two. I get that. But I just wonder, am I the only person who's affected by this? Like how do you set up your camera? Do you constantly click do you have other things set up? Because they're so customizable. How is this going to affect you? That's what I want you to tell me in the comments. Also in manual mode, the front dial being set to shutter speed, if you click it, on my camera anyway, if you click it, it doesn't do anything. But what it does do is lock the dial down. And I actually like that. Because many times when I'm working, I'll have my shutter speed set to a certain place that I want to stay there. And my aperture is set where I want it to stay. And I just want to move my ISO. So I'll lock down my shutter speed so that there's no way I can, by mistake, click turn the dial. I won't be able to do that anymore because it won't be clickable, right? So that's kind of a change I'm not necessarily happy about. I do like that this joystick, I think, is being moved up here. So it will be closer to where your thumb's going to be. I like that. And the other thing that I think some people are really not going to like, but it's not going to really affect me, is that they're changing this. The area selection dial here, where I'm sorry, the shooting mode dial? No, I'm sorry. This tells you how much I use it. I don't even know what it does. This is the focus type. Are you continuously focusing? Are you single shot focusing? Or are you manual focusing? Right. These are the focus type. This what this selector is. I never use this. I'm in single shot all the time. I never come out of single shot. Now, Fuji's going to improve the autofocus greatly. So once they do that, then I might find myself wanting to go into the continuous focus, right? But I never use, even when I was shooting Canon, I didn't use continuous focus because it just made me nervous. Because when you're in single focus, when you focus, the camera will light up, you'll get a green dot or something in the lens and it will tell you that you're focused and you can take the picture. But when you're in continuous focus, you don't get that. And I was just always nervous that maybe I wasn't actually tight on my focus because I wasn't getting that feedback. So I always use single shot focus because I don't back button focus either. I focus with the trigger. So it's click, click, focus, shoot, focus, shoot. So I am absolutely single focus, single shot focus. But they're getting rid of that, and it's going to become a button, and it will become a customizable button. So I suppose you'll probably be able to customize it so you can just click through the settings. But the problem with that is that if you click it by mistake, you won't necessarily know it, unless you're looking through your viewfinder and you're paying attention to that thing. Whereas you can look at this and see what the problem is, right? So I don't know how that's going to affect people. Again, in the comments, this is one of those videos where I really want you guys to talk to me about this, because I can tell you that of all these changes, and it's a lot. I mean, they're getting rid of 3 dials. Not really, because the X-H1 didn't have these dials either. But if you're an X-T4 shooter and you go to the X-H2, they're getting rid of the 3 dials on the top. They're changing the switch that's on the front of the camera and making it a button. And they're taking away 2 of the clickable features of the command dials. I mean, that's a lot, right? I mean, that's a big change. And to be fair, I would have to get rid of those changes if I had switched to the X-H1, at least some of those changes. But my question is it going to be too many changes, right? Is it going to be so many changes that I say, you know what? Maybe I'll just wait for the X-T5. Here's the thing. The X-T5 could come out and still not have the clickable command dials, because Fuji says that they got rid of the clickable on the command dials to make the camera more weather resistant, which is great, but weather resistance has never been a big deal for me. And I worked on windy and rainy beaches all the time, and it was just never really a big concern of mine. I would rather have the clickable buttons, to be quite honest. But there's a good chance the X-T4 is going to be the same way. So then it just comes down to the dials on top and the selector in the front, which really isn't a big deal for me, right? But I'm going to miss the clickable. I certainly am. What are you going to miss? And what are you excited about with the X-H2? And also, if you're a still shooter and you're planning on getting the X-H2s, talk to me about that, because I'm excited about that camera, but it just seems to be so video focused that it's just not the camera for me. So share your thoughts down in the comments, and that's it for now. Thanks for watching.